Thank you very much for all those who are, all of you for being here, actually. Special thanks to Dr. Emmanuelle, of course, to the panelists that will speak here, okay, I know there are not a lot of men here today, but I'm sure that if they're here, they are all he for she's. And that's what we need also. So thank you, gentlemen, also for being here and supporting us. Special thanks also, my gratitude to the Franco-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I've been here only 1 year, but I've seen really how dynamic, how important this structure is for the development and of our bilateral relations. It goes further than business. So really, thank you very much to the president, to Moses for his daily, to Marc also, he disappeared. Oh no, there he is. And for all those who contribute on a daily basis to make our relationship, as vibrant and dense as it is, and for your commitment to make it even stronger in the future. So I'm very pleased to be here to welcome you to this Women in Business breakfast organized as part of our French Week, which is the major event for the Chamber. And I'm, as I said, all pleased to be here because this is all about gender equality and women's empowerment, and obviously those are topics that are very dear to me on a personal level. I'm firmly convinced that equality between women and men is needed not only as a fundamental value, but actually as a driver in every society, in every country throughout the world, of economic growth, of prosperity, competitiveness for the whole of society, but also, more social justice, more equality. Economic empowerment is really a key to women's freedom of choice in all areas of their lives. And first of all, I'll try not to be long, but I really have a lot of things to tell you, so I'm sorry. Please bear with me. I want to say, first of all, that, women and girls, they face difficulties, discriminations, in all areas and in all countries, all throughout the world, including in France. So here, I'm not here to give any lessons to anybody, and especially not to Nigeria on these topics. Difficulties are everywhere, but this is also why you need strong political will to make things change all over the world. And I must say I'm quite proud that my president, Emmanuel Macron, His Excellency Emmanuel Macron, has made gender equality the national cause of both his mandates. And I think this is very important because he was not the first one, but it shows how important, how top priority this is for the French government. And actually, this is why we have been able to acknowledge some changes over it's quite recent. You might think that, France has been a democracy for a very long time, but actually, if you look concretely into the big changes that have been made, they occurred only over the last 20 years. And that is thanks to increasingly stringent legislation that has helped advance gender parity in both the political and business spheres. For instance, in the political aspect, now there was a law that was passed in 2014 enforcing actually parity on equality on electoral lists in all towns in France with more than 1,000 inhabitants, and that has actually boosted the women representatives. But what I must say is that these laws, and even the others that I might mention after for the business sector, they go with sanctions. They go with financial penalties. So each political party who is not presenting an equal number of women and men candidates has to pay fines, and they pay a lot. And when it hurts the wallet, I must say it hurts harder. This law, has really made a change, even though we still only have 1/3 of our deputies in our National Assembly that are women. So you see, there's still a lot more to go. But still, there are improvements, such as the fact that for the second time in our history only, we have a female prime minister in France, Elisabeth Borne. We also have, for the first time in our National Assembly, a president of the National Assembly, a speaker who is a woman. In my ministry, in my own ministry, there have been also some major changes with efforts made to facilitate access for women to senior positions and to promote women. So my minister is also a woman, and 2 of the 3 vice ministers at the Minister of Foreign Affairs are also women. For the first time in the history of the Quai d'Orsay of the ministry, a woman is a permanent secretary. So, there has been improvement, but still, in 10 years, for instance, the number of women ambassadors, we've gone from 12% to 31%. So we still have a lot to do. Progress is doing, but we still have a lot to do to go ahead. But it remains difficult for different reasons. Sometimes also because of the glass ceiling that women have in their own head. And I think that's also why it's important to have, men that are supporting, to encourage, to mentor, to help the women to take, who are reluctant or hesitant, or to take over leading positions, even if they are also mothers, because they have to have a family life. You can manage. I raised 4 children, right? So I guess, you can make it. Well, I don't know if being ambassador in Nigeria is a success in life, but it can be considered as a benchmark. But I personally, I'm quite satisfied to be here. So I guess for me, at least, it's important. But really, what I wanted to say is it's important that I was against quota policies when I was young, because I said, women should be taken because they are worth it. But actually it doesn't work that way. Because even if you have a man when you have a man or a woman who are the same level, same skills, but often the man will take over the job, So I think it's important that there are these laws that force on, the general mentalities, because it takes time, even in France, to change things. And what was interesting also, I think, in our policy on these matters is that we went gradually. And I think this could be an example. I said I didn't want to give any lessons, but it could be an example. I know you have trouble here in Nigeria passing some bills on on gender equality. I'm saying it in a diplomatic way. But in France, it was difficult too. But what we propose is a gradual system, like first, over 10 years' time, first year you have to reach 10% of new nominations have to be women, then the next year 20%. Makes it easy. It makes it more easier to accept and to change mentalities. This is just a suggestion. In the business sector, it was in 2011 that a law was adopted in France imposing a 40% quota for women on boards of directors and supervisor, that's very difficult to say, boards of listed company, you understood me, companies with more than 250 employees and all with a turnover of more than 50 million euros. And today, actually, women represent 45% of boards and director members against 15% only in 2010. So in only 12 years, the progress has been and now I'm quite proud to say that Frank ranks first in Europe in terms of proportion of women in boards of directors. You may know of an analysis called group, whatever you call it, audit something, called Equileap Global Report and Ranking. And they made an assessment of 4,000 big companies in 23 countries on criteria such as, proportion of women in the management teams, wage gap, parental leave practices, measures to combat sexual harassment. And in its 22nd edition, France obtains the best score. which I'm very surprised of, but personally, but it's a good thing. It means that it's changing, you know, and it's even ahead of Sweden, which is supposed to be, you know, one of the most advanced countries on this. So that's good. And out of the 129 French companies assessed, 15 are in the top 100. So this is good. However, of course, as I said, in France, you know, higher standard can still be reached, and it's still a target that we all have to have. But it's also one of our priorities for the president. It's inside and outside France, and this is why we have built up what we call the feminist diplomacy, to promote, you know, advocate for gender equality in international forums, and to take up the issue in all, in all forums, and to make sure that the goal, you know, of gender equality is taken into account in all issues, from inequality reduction to sustainable development, peace and security, defense, promotion of fundamental rights, climate and economic issues. So I've lost my little papers. So of course, so the main goals are, you know, fighting against sexual and gender-based violence, raising awareness everywhere, and also improving women's economic empowerment. That's the main, let's say, the main goals of this feminist diplomacy. But it's also very concrete through, for instance, the commitment that has been made that by 2025, 75% of all projects funded by France's official development assistance or development agency will have to contribute directly to improve gender equality. It's also, you know, financing, mobilizing more finances for funds or for actions in favor of gender equality, such as, for instance, you know, supporting. We have committed 120 million euros to support the fund for feminist organizations. We pledged 400 million euros at the Generation Equality Forum in 2021. Or we're funding also AFAWA, which is a fund called Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa. Or again, the Global Survivors Fund that was built by two Nobel Prizes recently. So this is in general what we're doing, but then more concretely here in Nigeria, maybe just to conclude a few words on what we're doing here in Nigeria. I think that first of all, I must say that the situation is not, I mean, it is what it is, but I think we see, you know, there are very positive signs and here, and especially thanks to when we see all these Nigerian women here today, but also all the ones I've been meeting for 1 year now. There are tremendous efforts and so much talent here, especially amongst the women in business here in Nigeria. And I think you're closing on the gendered gap here, clearly in the economic sector. And actually it's also said by reports. I think the latest report from the World Economic Forum on Gender Equality, Nigeria is now ranked 50th compared to 78th in 2021 out of 146 countries. So this is, you know, it is an improvement. And of course, progress is still possible, and necessary actually, because we know that, you know, Nigeria is losing also a lot of money due to gender inequalities, as women participate less in the labor market. I'm not going to say, as Moses said, that we do it better, but they do make a difference. So it's important that women get access to capital and all that. So here we want to encourage and support all this progress. I saw Moses watching his watch, so I guess I'm out of time, but just bear with me one minute more. So since 2019, we have financed like around 19 innovative projects through a special fund called PISCA that some of you might have heard about, promoting women's rights, but also women's empowerment through different things. For instance, we've, for instance, one of the 2022 projects, for instance, was about training widows and female farmers in 3 states in FCT, Nasarawa, I think, and Niger State, providing them, with training and the necessary tools and skills to develop their agribusiness, with smart, but to the most vulnerable women, like widows, especially. Or for instance, we're also in agribusiness still. I think agricultural sector is, is really one of the most important sectors of the economy here for job creation, for GDP, for everything actually, even food security. And so we really believe that, by including women, we can really unlock Nigeria's potential in agriculture. So we've financed for the last 2 years, actually last year we started and we're going to do it again, training programs in Kaduna and Oyo states for women to be trained in agriculture and sales techniques to enable them to better integrate traditional market networks. And I think the first results were quite encouraging. For the French Agency for Development and its subsidiary Proparco, dedicated to the private sector financing, there have been a lot of, they've financed already for close to 3 billion euros of projects here, but and in a wide range of sector. I mean, it goes from, infrastructures, public transportation, sustainable energy, or agriculture, higher education, anyway. But now, due to the commitment of President Macron, everything, a systematic importance is given to gender inclusiveness. And for instance, when we do vocational training now, at least 40% of the beneficiaries have to be women. So through the projects of AFD. So this is really, reinforcing the employability of women. I'm thinking of, for instance, there's a National Training Institute for Electrical Professions that it's in Kaduna, I think, that vocational training institute, and now 40% of this women, the beneficiaries are women. So I think, including in sectors such as electricity, where you might think that usually more men are in that. AFD has also, funded projects, but so did we, the embassy, against trafficking, gender-based violence, to end FGM mutilations or things like that. And last but not least, for the private sector, we are also, through our programs, Proparco or AFD gives lines of credits to financial institutions, banks, and the objective now is that all these at least half of these projects go to SMEs or businesses that are led or managed or owned by women. The first financing of this type was in for the first bank. No, how do you call it? Proparco First. Is there a bank called First, right? Yes, okay. I think it was 35 million euros in 2 years ago, 2019. Thank you. 2019, and 300 SMEs owned or led by women benefited from this program. At that time, it was 20%. More or less of the program that went to these women. But next year, and I'm very happy to be able to announce that the French Development Agency is working with the Nigerian Development Bank to implement, so in 2023, a credit facility 100% dedicated to women. Yeah. And the minimum will be of this line is 50 million euros. So I think it's an important thing. And I will stop here just by saying that if I'm wearing orange today, it's because we are also during the annual campaign of United Nations, the 60 days of activism against gender-based violence. The slogan, the motto is Orange the World. We'll be having a lot of events here in Lagos, but also in Abuja, in partnership also with the EU. I think it's an important campaign. It will officially start on November 25th with it's the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And then it goes through to December 10th, which is the International Human Rights Day. So I hope you will all join us on this. I wish you all a very fruitful event. I wish us all actually a very fruitful event, because I look forward to hearing and listening to our brilliant speakers.